Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hello, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 226 of Cognitive. Or in dog years, it's episode 440 something. Okay, not in dog years. That's if you count the old series. Your comments are very welcome. Please feel free to comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. In the meantime, over in the warm thanks department, first I want to thank Marianne for a very kind comment and a delicious cup of coffee. I have to say that it is really good to hear somebody say right now that they're enjoying every episode. I haven't been at my best, I feel like, recently, but I mean, really, these are harder times. And so I really appreciate that more than I can tell you. And speaking of that, I also want to thank our own Danny, aka Pirate Yarn, for another great phone discussion, and you'll hear more about that as we go through the episode. Danny and I have a monthly phone appointment, and I always go into this thinking, like, I don't know, it's been a month, do we have anything to say? And then we just go on and have a great time. And Danny's always got productive things to say. Also, thank you for the props for my book reviews of the Georgette Heyer books. Turbo Gal had some good things to say. She said, I so agree that our pets see us more than we often recognize. Like you, I see our cats mimicking us. When I sit or lie on the floor to do exercises, one of our cats invariably comes by and also lies on the floor and stretches with me. And also, she put up a really, really kind posting about us going to Minnesota if we do. And I have to point out, I am probably glued here for at least 2 more years. And we're hoping my kid will use those to do community college here before we can actually relocate. But it is very possible we'll end up in Minnesota, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the comments I've gotten about that. I am not at all surprised, you Minnesotans and Turbo Gal, that you've got a vibrant knitting community up there. It's pretty cold. I mean, here right now we have a fairly lively crochet group. We used to have a very lively knitting scene, and now our knitting groups are very few and far between, and the ones I know of are just kind of turgid. So crochet is kind of in vogue here. And I like crochet, and I do crochet. As you know, I had last summer was my summer of Woobles, and I will probably do a lot of it this summer. I have a lot of small projects I want to get through, though, this summer. And so right now, this is a crochet location, but I really miss when we used to have a more vibrant knitting community. But times change, and people change, and I think when you're in a cooler climate like that, of course, you're going to have a lot of knitting, particularly sweater knitting, no matter how fast and easy it is to crochet a sweater. I think knitted sweaters are more to my taste, and I think they're probably going to remain more popular for a number of reasons. I think the hand is what we're used to as consumers, whereas crocheted sweaters probably feel a little strange to us because we're used to buying basically machine knitted sweaters. So we will see. But I really appreciate the kind comments, Turbo Gal, and I appreciate, and by the way, congratulations on retiring. And I really appreciate all the Minnesotans who've been writing. Chris, yes, you got it absolutely right on Charity Girl and Cousin Kate, and I'll come back to that. DC Elaine Knits, thank you for your kind comments about beloved son and his show, and I'm certainly hoping we get a video. And finally, I just want to thank my community in this group, on the ground in the SCV and on Reddit. I really appreciate you folks more than I can say. The Cognitive Fiber Retreat is scheduled tentatively for October 11th, so mark your calendars. And I will talk about that a little bit later, but I think we're going to do it. I think it might look a little different, and I'll get back to that. Meanwhile, since we are, cognitive, let's talk about that. What is on my hooks and needles. Well, some good news, kids. I was sick, as you know, last week, and I couldn't do anything except knit, and I did. So you can see a picture of me, very happy, 2 of them really, in the show notes, wearing my new Astraeus sweater. And this, of course, is in Superwash hand-dyed merino from Lisa Souza in the colorway St. Louis Blues, and in Malabrigo Rios in Sunset. In that picture, it is not blocked. I haven't really blocked it yet. I probably should. But I was cold that morning, and so I just popped it on the minute I took it off the needles where I actually had it on the needles. What I was doing was weaving in ends, and this is an easy one to weave in. This is a very satisfying pattern. I used the 45-inch chest because in this particular Megan Regan pattern, she does not provide a 41-inch chest. I missed that. If you want that, go to the Llama Love single llama version sweater. That's the only one of hers I've seen where she does a 41-inch chest, and I wish she would do more of them because that fits me really well. So what you're looking at is I really began to decrease sharply, as I think I told you last week, about 4 inches below the armpit, and it came out great. It worked out. I took it down to what I thought was about 42 inches. It might be a little less. It was really comfortable. I have just enough ease there to be comfortable. Even so, if you look at it, to me the chest looks a little baggy, but I'm okay. It came out great. It's comfortable and it's very pretty. As you can see, I did adapt the yoke pattern because Megan tends to do a lot more stuff around the yoke and down the sweater than I want. And you're not hallucinating. Those are little individual stitches in the Sunset Gold below the single straight stripe line across of the Sunset Gold, so it looks like there's stars. It's very, very pretty. Meanwhile, the Stash Toss, happily now, is 17 skeins in, but 18 skeins out because of doing this particular sweater. And I'm still working happily on another one, so that should change really soon. Here in Mending March, or Making It March, or actually Women's History Month, let's be honest. So in the still in progress phase, of course, we have the Virgo sweater. And that's the one I'm working on. There's a picture of it there. I have divided for sleeves, and I am a good 2/3 of the way down the body tube. And that's nice. I'm going for about 84 rows below the armpit based on the Astraeus. And then I will add the ribbing. And I'm very happy with it. It's just a very pleasant, easy knit. It is totally potato chip knitting. Really easy and fun to work on. I have not done diddle on the blueberry waffle socks or the 10 square bag or the lakeside cardigan or the September sweater. I am just really happy to be sweatering because the weather suddenly got warm here. And so I want to finish up my heavier sweaters that have to sit in my lap while I knit them. The nice thing about the crocheted sweaters, the September sweater and the lakeside cardigan, they're in smaller bits. So it's much, much easier to work with them in small pieces in my lap without roasting. I have not done diddle on my quilt squares, which is bothering me. I really need to get back to that. But again, that's better warm weather stuff because they're little pieces. I don't have to have big, heavy things in my lap. Actually, we will see because pretty soon I'm going to start piecing the longer rows together because it's getting to be that time. Dizzy Blondes. I am happily spinning the second 4-ounce braid of the colorway Black Bowie Shadow from Lisa Souza. This is Blueface Leicester. This is not merino. And that's where most of her colors are right now. If you go to her website, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. They're really very pretty. I have a lot of work to do there, and I still want to order more because I really want to get a few sweaters worth here and do a few of my own sweaters with it. All of this I'm doing on my Electric Eel 6.1. Currently, I've been pre-drafting these a lot. Now, you don't really need to do that with Lisa's fiber. She really is great about keeping it very fluffed. But I have been pre-drafting because of the Electric Eel. That spinning wheel tends to stall if you make it pull too hard. So it's kind of a balancing act, but everything's going very well on it. And I've really got enough where I could ply my 2 strands of the Black Bowie against the single strand of the beautiful camel hair silk that I've got. So let's get on to a strategy, shall we? The strategy is spring. Use your spring energy. I have been listening to patients all week tell me how they have these urges to do useful things like cleaning and refreshing things, exercising, starting new craft projects. And then they say, well, I'm only doing it because the weather's getting warmer. We'll get cold weather again, blah, blah, blah. Stop it. Just stop that. If you have a burst of energy, you use it. You do it because using it feels good. And it is funny because I first heard this in a book many years ago, in the 1970s actually, about how to house clean. And one of the things the author of that book, whose name I've long forgotten, was big on was when you get energy to clean, just use it. Don't ask questions. Don't talk yourself into or out of it. Just do what you have the energy to do. That people get very frustrated and upset because they start a project and they don't finish it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get that. I really do. Here's what we know, and we know this from research. I'm not just making this up, kids. If you start a project, you're much more likely to finish it than you are to just do it from dead scratch right through to finish. Most people work in small bursts, and we ignore this all the time. So you can look at anybody's queue on Ravelry, or you can look at my in progress section in my show notes if you want to see that in action. But you have to start somewhere. And one thing you learn as a writer, which I have been in my time, believe me, as an English professor, you will do much better if you just do a fast first draft and then go back and edit. Why? Because it is easier to go back to your work in progress and correct it and clean it up than it is to start from the very beginning. And this is the point where some of you say, well, what about when I get startitis for my knitting projects or my crocheting? Do you really need me to answer this? I mean, come on, go look at your Ravelry queue. Look at all the unfinished stuff. That's what the answer is. But you know, you're more likely to finish something in your queue most of the time, even if it's a very recent something and you're letting old stuff rot away there. You're still more likely to finish something you've started than you are to start clean and work straight through beginning to end. Humans actually work better in small bursts. And I talked last time about the 80-20 rule, and we apply that in ADHD, but I actually think it's a very true rule for most people. So if you're getting spring energy, just use it. You walk in your bathroom and you say, God, it looks terrible. This is me last weekend. In case you want to hear, this is autobiographical, okay? Okay, let's be honest here. Walked into my bathroom, said, boy, it looks horrible. And I should really do something. And I said, I can't. I just can't. I'm so overwhelmed. It's a big bathroom. It's got, all this space. All this stuff needed to be cleaned. Well, the answer is, I thought, look, you want to do it. We had plans for later in the day, so you don't have to do it all because you have these plans. So I said, well, wouldn't it just be better if I wiped down the toilet? And so, I was doing that and then said, why don't I just flush it and pop one of the little cleaning sachets in it? And then in a few minutes, I'll come back and just brush it down on the inside. And actually, I flushed it, put the cleaning sachet in it, and then said, well, I'll wipe it down. I'm wiping it down and thought, well, as long as I'm standing here. And I just brushed it out as well. And this took 5 minutes. There was nothing to it. And when I walked back the next time, I thought, look at how good that looks. And the rest of the place looks trashed. So I thought, well, I'll just take the litter box out. And I just heaved it outside and then realized it's almost empty anyway. Just empty it, hose it down, let it dry. And it's stainless steel. You may remember this was one of those something I really like things. And it dries really, really quickly. It does everything great. I love the stainless steel litter box. I have to be honest, that's a great purchase. So, I just took it outside. I'm standing out there with a litter box in my arms right next to the trash can by the door and said, well, and just emptied it, And so what happened was I did the bathroom bit by bit in 5-minute bursts, 5 and 10-minute bursts. And I kept coming back into my study and puttering or drinking coffee or doing something like that. I would go in and go, oh, well, I'll just do this one thing. By the time we left at about 1:30 that afternoon, I had a big clean bathroom. I didn't mean to. It just worked that way. use that energy. Just take advantage of it. And this will go for anything. Now, the next thing is to use Ben Franklin, our patron saint if you're from Philadelphia. Little strokes fell great oaks. So, I'm just doing this in little bits and pieces. I'm not committing to the whole thing. So I didn't feel bad when we went out to lunch thinking, well, I really could have cleaned out the tub or something. I don't think I did the tub at that point. No, I didn't feel bad. I just kept walking in the bathroom and it was getting cleaner and cleaner. And sometimes you have to adapt. So if you say, I could exercise today, but I don't have the time. Look, put on shoes and walk for 5 minutes. Why? Because as the runners say, slow is better than couch. 5 minutes of walking is better than none. Just give yourself a chance to do a little bit and just stop blaming yourself for having the urge to do something that makes you feel better. For heaven's sake, you just do it. It will make you feel good. It will make you feel renewed, and it'll give you energy to come back to it later when you really are committing entire blocks of time to spring cleaning or to exercising or whatever you're doing to refresh things. It was pretty simple, wasn't it? I know. Hey, let's do like a mellow strategy, Gemma. Okay, it's that kind of a week. Meanwhile, you can find all the links you need for the various things I've been talking about, including the Social Security Administration website and the credit freeze info. Oh, shoot, speaking of exercise, I need to. I'm really wrapping my head around the fact that spring has landed. And so it was hot today. It was in the 80s, American. If you're British, don't bother because it never gets this warm there as far as, well, that's not true. I'm teasing you, Brits. I can't do it in centigrade, though. Let me have a second. Okay, I just did a conversion. It was 28 degrees Celsius here. Ugh. I don't actually know if I was ever anywhere in Britain where it was that. I can't remember a day where it actually got into the 80s when I was in Scotland. It might have when I was down in the southwest of England every now and then. Anyway, it was hot. And so I wasn't ready for that. So I realized, this weekend it's supposed to be cooler than that, more like 60s, 20 degrees Fahrenheit cooler at least. And so hopefully I will get myself running because I have the Forever Brave 5K coming up on May 25th. I can't believe there's nothing I can run in April, but so far that's what it looks like. Wow. In the meantime, let's do some fluffy books. Well, I finished False Colors. And I think I talked about this at length last time, so I don't want to bore you. It's okay. I suspect I will like it more the second time around because I suspect the narrator on Audible didn't do the best possible job. And to me, I kept comparing it to Comedy of Errors by Shakespeare, which I don't think is an accident. I think Heyer knows that. She's clearly a good literary scholar. It doesn't hold up to Comedy of Errors, which is painfully funny, but I think a lot of that was the narrator who was reading it was just not getting the humor of it. It was very flat. The weird thing about the Heyer books, most of them were recorded by Penguin Audio. Now, if anybody's going to know really good books and know how to record them, I'd expect it would be Penguin. They published the British literary classics, and they have for a long, long time. But the Heyer series, they have got a lot of just lackluster readers, and they almost never use the same reader twice, which I find very, very odd. And then I moved on to Cousin Kate, and I finished it just because I wanted to get through it and move on to anything else. Cousin Kate, well, look, this is Georgette Heyer, and she's a fine writer. I was looking in Goodreads, and there was a plot summary, and it said she was pretty desperate for a plot when she wrote Cousin Kate, that she literally was. She was worried about her finances. And that's exactly what it feels like. Cousin Kate wants to grow up to be a Gothic novel, but if you're going to get that, it really helps to know what a Gothic novel is. And every time Heyer tries to write a Gothic, you get the impression she's not quite sure what she's doing. And she tends to turn them into comedies. The Talisman Ring wants to be a Gothic, and I just think it's terrific. But a lot of it takes place away from the building that is supposed to be a central character in a Gothic. And I thought the Talisman Ring was wonderful. I thought it was so funny and very clever and a really good send-up of Gothic romance. Cousin Kate, she just backs off it. She tries to make the ending tragic. She tries to give an atmosphere to the home, and she just keeps forgetting to do that. She keeps instead trying to also make it a romance and focusing on how the hero is protecting Kate. It just gets flat. It just doesn't work. But she throws in a creepy juvenile male character who you just don't trust from the beginning, because the first time Kate meets him, he says, I could make you hate me. Second or third time, he says, let's try strangling you. And that's where the male romance lead shows up and says, hey, stop that. And Kate's like, oh, he didn't mean it. Like the time he basically pulls a gun on her. And this is really harking back to that other one I didn't really like a lot, The Quiet Gentleman, which also has a weirdly gothic feel and also falls flat. And for the same reason, The Quiet Gentleman, the central character, and Cousin Kate, both of them, you go, you people must be idiots. And The Reluctant Widow is also gothic, and in The Reluctant Widow, the widow herself is going, this is not safe. But the wannabe boyfriend rescuer, who's a surprisingly weak, strong character, if that makes any sense, he keeps telling her, that is the reluctant widow, he keeps saying, no, you're okay. And you're reading it and you're going, no, she is not okay. This is crazy. So, what I would say is the moral of the story is, for all her great skills, this is the woman who wrote The Grand Sophie, and the opening chapter of The Grand Sophie is one of the funniest things I have ever read. It is just brilliant from beginning to end. It's very long, even for Heyer. It's a long first chapter, but she just hits the humor hard. And yeah, the Penguin version of it has some pretty good voices. I wouldn't play Sophie's voice as quite as old as they're playing it. Even so, it's very, very funny, and it's read very well. So, this is Georgette Heyer. She's really quite gifted. But man, she should have stayed away from Gothics. She just can't bring herself to do it wholeheartedly. At least in my humble opinion. Something I really like, Project Kindle. There we have a picture of my 5 Kindles. Number 6 is arriving today. I have been busily transferring all sorts of documents, books, Audible books to my Kindles. And I got to number 4 and had finished it and was working on number 5 thinking, okay, I'll never finish that, and still have about 15 Audible books that I want to transfer. So I said, I also need a new one, because now when I buy anything online or if I download a PDF or anything, I'm just adding it to the current Kindle. But I don't have a current Kindle. They're all full. By the way, on the bottom, that black thing, that's one of my iPads. Ignore that. Ignore the man behind the curtain. Ignore the iPad behind the curtain. But there are the 5 Kindles. The one on the top is my oldest, and it looks it. And that's the one that has the slightly wonky connector, whereas the other 4 all have USB-C. And they're all very recent, except for that top one. And you can see I'm buying the inexpensive covers for them, and I'm having a really good time with them. I have been very serious about staying away from the corporations during Lent. This one I consider a reasonable investment. Why? Because no longer will I connect any of those 5 to the internet. I do not need to update them. They are full. There is no reason to do anything except charge them. And this makes me extremely happy, because this means if there's any kind of Amazon clawback, I am not going to lose anything. And of course, I was reading on the subreddit called Kindle, people who have lost their accounts, and they don't know why. That for some reason, Amazon kills accounts every now and then. And they do try to fix it. If you can show them that it was a mistake, I'll give them credit. They do seem to try to fix it. But a lot of people I read were just confused why they even lost it. I don't know. I don't care. But I think the idea is I have many treasured books, volumes, knitting patterns, crochet patterns, things I want to save. And that's what those Kindles are doing. And so far I've been looking at reviews on all the different ebook readers. The Kindle seems to be the best price, the best bargain. You can jailbreak it. I have not done this. That is, you can change it so that it can read all the ebook formats you want. I haven't gone there because so far it's worked with what I need it to work with, which is mostly PDFs and then things that are on, I think, .epub, .kfx, I can't remember if it's KFX or KFS, it's their newest one. And I've been very happy with the Kindle. So right now I'm okay with that. And I think investing in my future library is fine. When you look at that pile, you can see it's not very tall. It's not even 5 inches tall. Why is that important to me? Because that's what's going to go with us to Minnesota. I don't plan on bringing a huge ton of printed books with me. There isn't a reason to. Now, there's some that I will always have with me. I will probably always have my original Shakespeare anthology. I still have it on the shelf here from 1978. I love it. It's a friend. It's more than a book. But on the whole, I really just want to lighten the load. And so there it is, Project Kindle. And I'm happy to say book 6 is probably sitting in my driveway right now. On to the blather. Well, I am way better since last Friday. I was very sick up until, I think the 19th or 20th of the month. And today, as I record this, it is Tuesday, March 25th at 7:07 p.m. I am still hacking up glue, which is a little disturbing. We had the beloved son's birthday party, and unfortunately, I accidentally ate sugar, a lot of it, during dinner at our local restaurant. They brought us the wrong thing. We asked for diet soda, and we got full-blown Coke, and I had 2 big slurps before I got the message. That's why this tastes so bad in my brain. And so I have to say, the party wasn't as successful as I'd like it to be. Fortunately, the beloved husband's birthday is coming up, and we can do repairs on that. In the meantime, my son is in the chorus of the Music Man, and we're very proud of him. He's enjoying it. He goes every week and practices faithfully, and this local theater group does dancing classes and voice training and all sorts of things. So no, he didn't have a career as a star in local theater, which this group is for people under 18, but he certainly had a good time, and he's continuing to, and the performance isn't until, I think, May? June? So he's in the chorus, and he's enjoying going every week and working on it. Meanwhile, we are still on the Lent boycotts, if you're us. Now, currently, there's a sort of national move to boycott the Nestle company this week, and I'm good with that. I don't use the Nestle company, except they own Purina Pet Foods, which really caught me off guard because we do use that. We've got it stockpiled in the house, so no, I'm not buying from Nestle this month. The reason I do feel strongly about this, if you're in America and you don't get parenting leave, it's because of the Nestle Corporation. Nestle's makes baby formula, and they have done a lot of obscene things with it. They were doing something hideous in Mexico back in the 60s where they were experimenting on children and all this. I mean, they have not been ethical. And one of the things they did, they presented a very strong lobby in the American Congress against parental leave because they didn't want mothers to stay at home and be able to breastfeed their babies. So if they did that, of course, who would use formula? So Nestle has worked actively behind the scenes for well nigh 50 years in America to stop women especially from getting maternity leave. That's just sick. So if you're going to boycott anybody, you might want to look that up. I'm just doing the Lenten boycotts. I think it's a great idea. And as I've said before, I've had a great experience with it, that my dependence on just going online and buying things, I didn't realize how much of that I was doing and how much time I was wasting just window shopping online. So as a result of that, I'm getting out and looking at things, and that leads to my next thing. My husband dragged me out to a meeting with another set of parents this weekend because my son has a friend who wanted to take him out to lunch. So we decided we would all go. And the parents met with the kids at a local cheesecake factory. I like Cheesecake Factory because they will adapt anything. They charge an arm and a leg for everything on their menu, but I've had great luck saying to them, I am diabetic. Here's what I cannot eat. Can you adapt this? And they will do it for you. The waitress, in my case, will sit there and make a list of what I can't eat, go back, bring it back, and report on the contents. I have never had a bad experience with this. I'm deeply grateful. So we ended up letting the kids sit in their booth. And we parents sat together and just had a really, really nice chat. After this, the other family had to rush away. But we ended up wandering around in Barnes & Noble for a good half hour, 40 minutes. I don't think any of us bought anything, but it was nice to be in a really good brick and mortar store and look at things. And I went to the knitting and crafting section, which is really woefully small now. Mainly it's because there's not the demand, as far as they know. But I think it's also because other people have filled that gap. Well, they used to when Joann's existed. So they don't have to have a lot of books about quilting or sewing. And they don't have to have a lot of knitting books because, frankly, we're getting our patterns off Ravelry. Had a lot of crochet, though, which surprised me. But even a lot just means about half a shelf. So the craft section at B&N was kind of disappointing. It was B&N. There's plenty of toys and goodies to look at, and it was very, very fun to be there. So that's about it. I'm having a really dull week. But I am enjoying just lying around, and this is a really short episode, people. Thank you for being faithful. You can see, as always, the information I always carry. I am on Blue Sky as Dr. Gemma, and I am, yes, doing a lot less Instagram and Facebook. You can see the vaccine information sheets for parents, which were scrubs from the CDC website. You can see the community resources that we use as part of Cognitive for various books, various patterns, various things you can buy to support your crafting, various skills and techniques, and of course my link tree. You can see the calendar for what goes on in the Santa Clarita Valley around crafting that I know of, and my upcoming races. I have them in 2 places. I know, I'm a show-off. What do you want me to say? And of course, CFR 11. Now, I mentioned I would talk about that a little bit. Danny and I had a really productive discussion. And I really think that since I lost the goodie bags, I don't have to do as much for CFR. And this led to a discussion of what do we want to do? All right, last year, I've always done goodie bags, you know this. And last year was number 10. And Etsy, where I worked to get the goodie bags together, Etsy wrote to me and said, if you don't stop asking people to donate, we're going to take away your account. We'll ban you. I was so shocked. I think one of the people I requested cards and whatever from, I think they just reported me as a scammer. A lot of people on Etsy in the last 2 years, when I have asked for things, have said, are you a scammer? I give them links. I show them. There's links to all the previous CFRs and everything. But most people don't bother to do research. They just call me a scammer these days and go away. As you can tell, Etsy has changed a lot since the first CFR in 2009. So I can't really do the goodie bags anymore. Now, the goodie bags cause cost. They raise the price of CFR because you have to pay for the goodie bags to get the bags made. And so that's going away. And meanwhile, the hotel prices, no matter where we go, the hotel prices are high. So I thought, why are we charging a lot for CFR? What is the point of that when we can just make it cheap again, really cheap? It's never been that expensive, but basically people can put their money into the hotel cost. So frankly, no goodie bags. I'm not even going to work on that this year. And I think a lot of us just want to get together. And if people want to offer classes, we'll do that. Vendors, I am going to ask we pay for the meeting room so that the vendors have a place to sell. Well, we only had 2 vendors last year. So I'm actually thinking we've got a big lobby in that hotel. I don't think we're going to get a meeting room. I think right now both vendors want to come back. I'm going to say that's great, that they can rent a suite together and we can all go down to their suite. So these are the changes I'm thinking of making. I'm grateful for any feedback on this. So would there be a cost for CFR 11? Yes. The cost is likely to be $10. Why? Because there are still expenses. We do still end up paying for strange things like the tickets for the raffles. Of course, I'm not even sure what we're going to have for raffles. We do pay for poster board to put up the schedule. So I really think that the way this is going, it's going to be very inexpensive, and we're just all getting together to be buddies. And yes, I'm going to use a hotel because I want to. Meanwhile, let me know what you think of that. I am interested in feedback from you all. Finally, Minerva gets the last word. The last word is, I need a lap. There is Minerva sitting in my lap, and she's making love eyes at me, which it's hard to know if you're not a cat person, but those are actually love eyes. Her eyes are narrowed. When cats want to hurt you or hurt something, their eyes are very wide. So when cats narrow their eyes, they're signaling that they're in a restful place and they're feeling warm and fuzzy and affectionate. Minerva is doing that because I was sick for 5 days and it weirded her out. I barely got out of bed for 5 days. So she has been a bit clingy this week, getting into my lap in my office. At the same time, it's been very hot this week, and so she's having a hard time sitting in my lap. She overheats. So Minerva needs a lap, and that's a picture of that. And I think it's kind of significant. We all need a lap. Well, I know you can interpret that in some weird ways, can't you? Try not to, really. This is a family podcast. But I mean, everybody needs to be loved and cuddled just a little bit. And if you do that, they will probably narrow their eyes affectionately at you also. So, don't forget to give the people you love some love and affection. And Minerva would like to thank you and recommend this as a typical practice. Having said that, remember, we are a community. And when we take care of the community, we are taking care of ourselves as individuals. Having said that, please go get your vaccinations. Go do the things you need to do. Don't let the crazy get to you too much. Try to just keep it together and keep on functioning in your day-to-day. That we keep it together and we will be okay. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.